Ishwarama's resplendent sun. It's the start of a bright new day. Time to rise, time to shine, Lord divine. Time to lead us along life's way. Awake, Lord of Buddha party. Awake, O Lord, over all mankind. Awake, O Lord of compassion, that the world good fortune may find. On Chitravati's peaceful shore stands our heart's own mansion. We yearn to serve you, and we long for your holy darshan. Morning's begun, and o'er the world spreads the radiant sun. Sweet.
Yeah, instead of that.
Before I sit down today, once again I want to say thank you to every one of you who have come today to pay homage to Baba. Even though at home I know that every day your thoughts are always, daily, endlessly on Baba, when you get together like this, somehow it just raises the energy beyond belief. And those of you who can see auras, I'm hoping that you would look out and about you to the brightness and the splendorousness of the area since you've all been here. You've livened it, you've brightened it, and you've brought about another miracle to our area. And Baba said this is a very spiritual area. And since it's very spiritual, why is it spiritual? Because from some space and time, people like you have brought this lovely energy to this area. And because of that, you're just rejuvenating it, renewing it, and adding to it. So to make something spiritual, there has to be spirit there. And each and every one of you are that spirit. There's no doubt about it. And looking across at all of you, I see this beautiful, beautiful haze that is nothing but spirit. And it's beautiful. And I've been asked today to tell some of my stories. They're not my stories, they're Baba's stories. And some of them are lengthy and some of them are short. So if you get tired of listening, just stand up and go. Okay.
You never get tired, Wilma.
I've been asked, first of all, to tell the story about the lady that I took down to Phoenix, Arizona. I didn't want to take this lady to Phoenix, Arizona. Isn't it interesting how Baba puts things in your path and you say, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. I don't have time to do that. And then suddenly you do all these things and you do have time and you do it and you look back and there was no gap in time. There was no space that you can think of that changed your life at all in what you did. And that's what happened in this story. This lady needed to go down to a meeting. She was one of the officers of an organization that are from all over the world. And they have speakers of all different facets of life. They have speakers that are doctors and speakers that are psychiatrists and psychologists and dentists and professors and all these things, and they all come together under the title of understanding, so that one organization can understand the other and maybe work together better. The head of this organization had bought property in Phoenix, Arizona, and they were going to sell the property and dismantle the organization because most of the people in it were getting older and were beginning to fan out and do other things and weren't getting together at the times that they had planned to. She was going to drive down by herself, and she was in her 70s and asked me to drive her. And I said, I just can't do that because I have all these people to take care of, and I've been gone quite a bit, and so I can't do that this time. She said, well, if you don't go, if you don't take me, there's nobody else I want to have take me, so I'll just drive down by myself. And I said, you can't do that, Ta. And she said, yes, I can. So I thought about it, and I said, no, I can't. I know that she'll find someone else. And I came home, and I told Ivan, I said, you know, Ta wants me to drive her to Phoenix, and here it is in May, and there's so many things to do, and I can't do it. And we dropped it. So I kept thinking about it. You know how Baba keeps jabbing you with these little jabs, you know? And I kept thinking, boy, I hate to see her drive down there by herself, but I can't do it, so there's no way I can do this. So we were sitting in the living room, and I was sitting in my chair over here, and Ivan was over there in his chair. We were watching some program on television. It kept bugging me. You know, Talita, should I take her? Should I make a way to take her? And as I was thinking this, Baba appeared in the dining room at that post that's by the dining room table. And he stood there, and he was so real that it's like looking to you folks sitting here now. And he just nodded his head in his way, you know. And I said, Ivan, look, Baba's in the dining room. And so he tried to turn and get turned around to see him, and Baba was gone. I said, I am going to take her. Baba has said I should take her. Somehow it's going to work, but I have to take her. I can't let her drive by herself. So I ran to the telephone, and I called her up, and I said, Talita, I will take you. Baba has just appeared to me and acknowledged the fact that I'm to take you down there. So she said, I'll be ready at 9 o'clock in the morning. I said, I'll be here. So she was to drive up, and I'm to take her car. Now, she drove a Ford Thunderbird, a green two-door Thunderbird. I'd never driven her car before, but I drive everything, and so that didn't bother me. And it was a day just like today, very warm, and all the news was saying, you know, it was hot in California, and all of these places sounded warm, so we were wearing sandals. We took a sweater. We took changes of dresses with us, and slacks, and so forth. And some food to eat along the way, a couple thermoses of coffee, and one of my friends that owned a beauty shop, she said she would come up and take care of all of our people. It just all flowed in, so of course you know Baba's behind that. So we left at 9 o'clock in the morning. Now to go to Phoenix, Ivan said your best route and the least busy is to go over to Klamath Falls and go down the inland route. Go through that route, you won't have all of this heavy traffic that you would on the freeway. And it sounded good to me, so that's the way we went. As we started up into the mountains, this side of Klamath Falls, it began to rain. And the rain got heavier, and the rain turned to snow, and we're driving into snow. Now, we have a sweater, and we have sandals, so we better not get out of the car. And as we drove further, it got colder. There was an old man that was flagging for a group of men that were working on the highway, on the road. And he's standing out there. He had on a tan shirt with sleeves about the length of this, kind of this army khaki stuff. thin pair of pants, and he was easily in his 70s, and he's holding up this slow sign and stop sign, and he's shaking and shaking because he's cold. And I said to Talia, look at that poor old fella out here, he doesn't even have a coat, and where is the work crew? Well, they were way ahead of him. And so we stopped, and I said to him, would you like some hot coffee? And he said, oh, yes, ma'am. So we poured coffee for him, gave him a cup of coffee, gave him a chocolate bar, and I told him, we'll send someone right back down here to get you, because you can't be down here like this, you'll have pneumonia. So that urged us on, and we caught up with the work crew, and I stopped and I talked to him, and I said, do you know that you have an old man way down there slowing traffic? He doesn't even have a coat, and he's cold, and he's going to have pneumonia. If you don't send somebody back down there to get him, by the time I get to Klamath Falls, I'm going to turn you in. And they said, we'll send somebody right down. So they turned a pickup around, and down they went to get the old man. And I've often wondered if the old man was Baba, but definitely Baba was guiding him, whether it was he in person or what it was. So then we went on our way, and up and through all of the snow and down the other side, and when we got down to, what's the name of that little town where the bottles and the...
Just beside Alturas.
Alturas. We got down there, then the snow eased up, and a sprinkle of rain, and then everything cleared, and so we were running just fine, and we thought, well, we won't have any problem now. So we got to Reno, and the weather was fairly clear. It was cool and windy, but it was clear, and so we felt real good about that. We overnighted in Reno, and we went on our way the next morning early. And as we drove, maybe we were 10 miles from Reno when the driving became very simple because there was no cars passing us, and we weren't passing anybody, and we were visiting and having a ball, and we were talking about Baba and his miracles, and driving, and we passed the ammunition storage place, and no traffic. And it dawned on me suddenly, I said, you know, Talit, if we had a flat tire out here, there wouldn't be a soul to help us. We haven't seen a police car, we haven't seen a truck, we haven't seen a car for miles. Nobody uses this route. No wonder Bob, or Ivan told us to come this way. We don't have a traffic problem. It was great. We kept going and going and going, and the closer we got to Tonopah, it began to rain. And then it began to hail, and then it began to snow. And the snow really was coming down as we climbed up into Tonopah. And it got heavier and heavier. By the time we got to Tonopah, it was deep. It was at least a foot deep. And we had no chains. Again, we had no coat. All we had was a sweater and sandals. And the sandals played such an important part in this whole story. When we got farther into town, all of the motel signs said no vacancy. And to plow through this snow where trucks and cars had gone wasn't too hard because they'd already cut tracks, but you couldn't get off to the side either direction to get to motels, and anyway, there was no vacancies. There was one place that I could get into their driveway, and I asked them if they knew of any place there was a vacancy, and they said no, everything is full. This is why there was no traffic on the road, because all of the storm signs had been up and there was no travel. Everything had been shut down except Tahalita and Wilma. So, and we had just very happily driven on our way. So we went to the hotel, the Tonopah Hotel. To get into that, like most hotels, they have this archway where the buses come in and under. And behind the hotel is an alley that runs full length of the, it's about a block, I guess, that the hotel sits on. And the hotel's on this corner. So I drove into this archway and went in to see if there was by any chance a room. And oh no, and the place was just full of people. And they were all gambling, you know, they have the one-armed bandits, and every one of those stations were full. And people were milling around with nothing to do, and truck drivers, and all these people were there. So I went up to the desk, and this lovely young lady, I asked her if there was any rooms at all, and she said, no, we don't have anything at all. And I said, well, I have this older lady with me. Is there some place that she could sit, just any place she could sit down, because she can't be standing around like this? And she said, you can sit on the steps, because coming in from outside, you come into a foyer and then come up 3 steps and then on into the lobby. She said, if you can find a space on the steps, she can sit there. I said, fine. So I said, I'll go sit down on the steps and I'll keep looking, maybe someplace, you know, I can talk to somebody. So I went back to the desk and I said to her, is there any place you know of that has a vacancy? And she said, honey, there's no place that I know of. Everything is full. Look at us, we're so packed here. And she said, we're just getting the overflow of people that can find no place, so you're just one of those. An old man came in, he had a uniform on, and he came in and he said, who owns the green Thunderbird that's parked out there? And I said, we do. And he said, you can't park there. If a bus should be able to get into here, you're in the bus parking place, so you have to move the car. And I said, where am I to move it to? And he said, I don't know, lady, but you got to get it out of there. So I said, fine, Ta, I'll go out. You keep my purse in here so I don't have to carry that, and I'll go out and I'll find a place for the car. I go out in sandals in this snow, this deep, and get into the car and kick the snow off of my shoes, and my legs are wet and they're cold and I'm cold, and I thought, this is just ridiculous. Why am I here? You know, why did you do this to me, Baba? You know, we always blame it on Baba. I'm sure it was his fault. So I moved the car out to this alley that was in back, and on one side of the alley was an embankment like ours is here, and then there was cars parked up on that level, and that was just packed full. There's no way I could get up there. But along this little alleyway, I thought, well, here's a space right along the bank, so I'll ease into there. Cars slipping, hard to get it in there, but I'll get it in here, and they can get by me out here, and so the bus can get by me, so I'm fine. So I parked the car, locked it, went back in through all of this snow and things, and got all set up and told Talita, we've got a place for the car now. I parked it in the alley, so we're clear. So I went back to the desk and I said to her again, and she's such a pretty lady, dark hair, very attractive woman, and I said, do you have even a pillow? Because we didn't bring any pillows. Do you have a pillow that maybe Talita could put her head against the wall there where she's sitting on the stairs? She said, honey, we don't have a spare bed, we don't have a spare pillow, we don't have a spare anything. But she said, why don't you get something to eat? Go back to the restaurant and get in the line with the others and go back and get something to eat. So we get in the line to go get something to eat, and the old man comes to me and he said, you can't park the car in the alley because the bus is so large that when it drives in, it has to make that turn. You can't park there. So I said, oh my goodness, where are we going to park? I said, there's just no place for blocks and blocks. You know, the trucks had taken up, all these long trucks take up a block anyway, you know, and 2 of them to a block. So what am I going to do with this car? I thought, well, if I'm supposed to wade in the snow, I guess I'll wade in the snow. We did it when we were kids. I can do it again. So just as I was going out to move the car and went down the steps, he came to me and he said, I found a place for you, for your car. And I said, oh, where? And he said, see, right next door here at the casino next door, the man that owns the casino, I went and spoke to him, and he's got that wired parking that's right there. So he told me that you can pull your car into that, and he's given me the key to the padlock. You pull your car in there, and we'll lock the gate. Get the things out of it that you need. We'll lock the gate. Your car is safe, and you don't have to park blocks away. I said, oh, Baba, thank you. So right there at the back of the hotel, pull the car into this big chain link fence. He locked the fence, and I carried in a few little things that we might want, you know, because we have no room, so there's nothing to need really, except maybe a comb and a toothbrush. And I go back into the hotel, and I said, Talita, you won't believe this. We're parked in a locked, safe place. And he had told me that if we needed to get the car out, that the man, it would be behind the bar in the casino, and he's the one that owned the key. He just hadn't brought his car down that day because of the snow. So now we have a safe place for the car. We could leave everything there. She can sit on the stairs. I'm leaning up against the window, and fairly well, my feet are anchored, and I feel pretty good about that because there's just nothing else. And the line to the dining room is clear back in through the lobby and back to the stairway and down the stairs on the other side. So as the line progressed, we finally got into the line. We got back to the dining room, and all the food was gone. It's just like here, you know, sometimes all the food was gone. And they had had some soup, and they had watered that down, so it was just like it wasn't even a good broth. There was just nothing. So we got a cup of coffee, we got some crackers, and this watered down bowl of soup, and that was our dinner. We come back out, and by now it was 10:30 or almost 11 o'clock. And I thought, I'll try one more time. She must hear of something. You know, when you're behind the desk in the lobby of a hotel, you hear things. And so, at least I hope she heard things. So I went to her again and I said, isn't there some place, somewhere in town, that we can get a bed to sleep in? And she said, no, but I'll tell you what I'll do. She said, we have a little trailer, a little travel trailer. And it has one bed in the back, and it has a breakfast nook. But when I get off work tonight, if I can get my car through, I will take you to the trailer, and you and Tahalita, or whatever, she didn't know her name, but you and the lady, can sit in the breakfast nook. And she said, that's better than sitting here in all this smoke-filled room on the steps. So she said, we'll just put you in the breakfast nook, and I'll put my son over in bed with my husband and I, and that's what we'll do. Oh, I said, thank you, you know, just let me know when. She said, I get off at midnight. So I'm standing there and leaning against the wall, and time went by and time went by. Pretty soon she beckoned to me. She said, come here. She said, you know, I'm not supposed to do this, but she said, I'm going to do this. On the top floor of the hotel is a penthouse. The penthouse is owned by the owner, and he's not here. And he has a guest staying in the bedroom of the penthouse, but it's locked off from the living room. And she said, you can lock it from both sides. And she said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to send you and this lady up to the living room. Now there's just the floor, and there's a Davenport and a chair. But she said, you can be up there. Now, nobody is to know that you're there, so you mustn't say anything to anybody. So she called the old man that we went through the parking situation with, and she whispered to him, and he said, okay. So he takes us around to the elevator, and the elevators have no floor numbers on them. Because of the gambling, a lot of people get a lot of money, and so they don't want people downstairs knowing what room or what floor they get off, so they'd be robbed or something, is what I was told. So anyway, we get on the elevator and we go up. It seemed to me that we went up 5 floors. So I don't know how tall is the hotel? Do you remember? 4 or 5 floors, I think. Anyway, it seemed to me that we passed 5, but it could have been 6. I don't even know that. And we get out into this roof. We walk along the roof, under the eave of the roof, to this door, and he unlocks this real fancy door, and we go in. Now the room has a red carpet, like my red carpet. It has red draperies. At that time, our draperies were all red. It had red draperies. Had big windows along both sides. We could see out both sides of the corner. It was a corner room. And there was a French Davenport, you know, with all of the roses carved in the back, and it had the horsehair seat that's real hard, real firm seat, and padded back. Had one chair, kind of like a rocking chair, and that's all. Just a living room. There was nothing else in the room. As we looked around, there was nothing there. And he said, now there's no toilets here. So you'll have to go down the hall to the toilet at the end. Don't go down there by yourselves. Both of you go together. You take the key with you. One of you stand guard outside when the other one is inside. If you're taking your shower, stand guard outside. But please don't go down alone, because the roof is accessible to a lot of truck drivers, a lot of transients, and we don't even know who all's in the hotel tonight. So it wouldn't be safe, and there's not a lock on the door. So he took us down this roof, and we went along the roof and saw this little shed out there that had the toilet in it, and there wasn't a shower in it. There was just nothing but a toilet, flush toilet. And we went back to the room, and he said, now, I want you to lock the door and don't answer to anyone unless I give you my name. We said, fine, we would do that. He said, oh, by the way, I know where there's a spare pillow. One of the rooms that was taken has one person in it and only one bed, but there's always two pillows. And I'm going to see if I can get you one of those pillows for the old lady. So he left to go get this pillow. And while he was gone to get the pillow, as I turned around and looked around this vacant room, in the corner where we had just looked and there was nothing, in this corner was a rollaway bed. It was this cretonne covered. And I said, Talita, that looks like a rollaway bed. And she said, it does, doesn't it? And I said, well, it's got wheels underneath and everything. I'm sure it is. So I said, let's look. So we take this cretonne cover off, and sure enough, there's a fully made rollaway single bed that you just unhook the hook and lay it down, and here's your bed. And I said, Ty, you've got a bed. How wonderful. No, I'm not going to take it. You're driving. You're going to take it. So we go through this little hassle. And the old man knocks on the door, and he comes with a pillow. So now we have a pillow, and we have a rollaway bed, and we have a Davenport, and we have a nice warm carpet on the floor, and the rooms were warm. We could just dry out. The rooms were so warm, and we were wet. I mean, soaking wet. The bottom of my skirt was wet, even where I'd waded through the snow. And I said, you know, if there's a closet, there's hangers in it, and we can hang our clothes out here, and the room is so warm, they'll be dry by morning. So I opened these big doors to get the closet, and it wasn't. It was a television set that I'll swear was this big across. Full-size television set. And I said, look, we can watch a show or something. We've got a TV even. So now that's not the closet. So here's the door to the kitchen and the rest of the apartment, and here's this door. So now this has to be the closet, right? So I opened the door, and believe it or not, there was a full bathroom. There was a tub with a shower. There were 2 towels, 2 big, lovely, fluffy bath towels, 2 washcloths, 2 bars of soap, fancy soap. There was talcum powder, there was hair shampoo, there were toothbrushes, all these things, the amenities that come with a first-class hotel. And believe me, that's not a first-class hotel. It just isn't. And I said, Talita, come here. Come look at this. You won't believe this. The bathroom to this apartment is on this side of the wall. It's not on that side of the wall. Lovely white fluffy rug on the floor. Oh, it was nice, warm. So I said, we're going to take a shower. He'll know somebody's been here because we're going to use these things. So we did, and we got all cleaned up, and I said, I'll take the Davenport, you take the bed. So that fight was settled, and I took the Davenport, and she took the bed. So we got up in the morning, and the snow had stopped, and as we looked down out of our window, we saw the snow plows just going every direction. And by the time 10 o'clock came, the trucks were pulling out and getting onto the road, and the TV was showing how far south was the snow, and the roads were being plowed. And so now we're going to go down and see if we could get out of there and go get some breakfast somewhere, because there was no breakfast downstairs, that was for sure. So we got our few little things together. Our shoes were dry, our stockings were dry, my skirt was dry, and down we went. I went to the desk, and I said to the man behind the desk, may I have the name and address of the lady that was at the desk last night when we came in? There's no lady behind the desk. I said, yes, the dark-haired lady that was working last night until midnight. We don't have any women working here. Absolutely no women works in this hotel. We have too many truckers coming in, we'd have too many problems, and there's never, ever been a woman working behind the desk in this lobby. And I said, but I talked to her. I talked to her last night. We talked to her many times. I was up here at this counter half a dozen times talking to her. And dark-haired lady, very pretty lady. He said, lady, we do not have any women working behind the desk in our hotel. Oh, that's weird, because Tahalita, didn't we talk to a lady here behind the desk last night? She said, yes, we did, dear. Well, not going to stand and argue with this man, because he definitely meant what he said. So I said, well, we'll go over and get the keys and get the car, and we'll go. And so we did that. We went over. The old man that took us to the room was not there. The woman behind the desk was not there. So I'm hoping the keys to the car is there. And they were. The man was over there. He worked behind the bar. And I said to him, what's the name of the lady that works behind the counter in the lobby of the hotel over there? No lady works at the hotel. No. The man's name is so-and-so and so-and-so. But I said, yeah, but on the shift when we came in last night, the lady that was working there, oh, he said they never hire any women over there. The only women that's there, even the waiters in the dining room, they have very few women working in this hotel. Thank you very much. So we get the car out. I took the keys back to the padlock. We get the car out. It's nice and dry inside, started up. We had little trouble getting it out of the parking because they hadn't plowed into there, but backing forward and back, and we got out onto the main street, started down the road, and I said, Talita, there was a woman there, wasn't there? And she said, yes, there was. Now, we took pictures, or I did, of the room because I thought it was so fascinating to find this bathroom. So I took pictures of the room. So I know the room was there because I still have the pictures. But as we got down the road, I said, let's turn around and look at the penthouse and see what floor it's on. There was no penthouse. There was a flat roof to the hotel. There is still a flat roof to the hotel. And there was no penthouse. There was no lady behind the desk. And Baba took care of us that night. So that's that story. So just like he materializes the rings and things, he can materialize things that's much, much bigger. There's just no doubt about it. Now,
tell a story about the ring and how you first found out about Swami.
Yeah, tell that one. That's a good one.
okay.
Your first trip to Swami.
That's a lengthy story, as you know. Condense it. Huh? I was giving classes here, and I did a lot of spiritual work and spiritual classes and mind enhancement classes and all of these things that for years I had studied and working with psychology and all these things. And I gave a class at which we had about 40 people here. And among those people are the Bazanis and Barbara Burgoyne and Barbara Corrins and all of this group that are such wonderful friends of ours even today. And they were all here. This patio was laid out, the flooring and some of these things by the boys that came. And Baba had sent all these people, but you see, we didn't know that it was Baba doing this. We really thought we were doing it. And we thought that the energy from our own spirit was doing this, and our guardian angel was doing this, and, you know, we had all the answers at that time. And so the people that came to that class, one of them was a young girl at that time, maybe in her 20s, and she had studied massage, and she was a masseuse on one of the big ships that go back and forth on these tours, you know, that they take people on tours down to the Caribbean and so forth. And at one time she came downstairs just before the class started, and she said, I have something I want to show you. I want to tell you about somebody. And I said, I was so busy and I was laying out all my material, And she said, have you ever seen this person before? And she unrolled this picture of Baba. It was about this big a picture. And I just remember, even today, the flash of his face. I just remember seeing the dark hair, the background of the picture, and his face. And people started coming in, and she rolled it up real quick, and she said, I'll show it to you later. And the class started, and that was the end of that. Now, quite a few months later, as we were having classes here, a doctor and his wife out of California were coming to the classes. And they told me, we're going to go down to Tecate, Mexico to take yoga classes because in the work that we're doing, we don't get any exercise. So if we can get a class to teach us yoga, then we'll do that because we just can't get out in any way to do exercise. So we'll be gone for a week and then we'll be back. So they left and they went down to Mexico. And a week later they were back and came back to classes again, and she said, I have a message for you. I want to tell you somebody that I met down there. You just love her. There's a lady down there by the name of Lynn Polton, and she's editing books for Indra Devi, for Mataji. We call her Mataji. And if she ever comes up this way, she's coming up to see her brother, and I've invited her to come and visit. And I want her to meet you, because you just get along real good. You love her. I said, fine, and that was the end of that. Now, a little while later, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks, something like that, I get a call from Sue, and she said, I have a house guest, and I want you to meet her. And she said, we're bringing her up tonight, is that all right? Because we're deep into the class, and so she probably won't enjoy that, but I really want you to meet her. Well, I said, fine, that's no problem. So they came up, and who was with them but Lynn Polton? Lynn had gone up to see her brother, and then started back. Now, Mataji, Indra Devi Mataji, had given her a message that she was to stop and see Dr. Bronkey in Grants Pass and give me a message. But when she got to Grants Pass, as she was going back down, she was going to go on through Crescent City and down and visit family in San Francisco, and she had a whole itinerary all lined out to take her a couple of weeks of driving. And she said, when I got to Grants Pass, I couldn't find your name or address anywhere. It was on my dashboard the whole trip, and suddenly it wasn't there anymore. So what she told me happened, that she went on down to Crescent City, not finding my name on anything, and she thought, I'll see the doctor and his wife, and then I'll go on to San Francisco. When she got down there, the doctor's name, we called him Jack, but his real name was John. So in the telephone directory, he was Dr. John. He was not Jack. So she couldn't find the name, and she had it written down. She knew that was the name, so she thought this John was somebody else. So she was all upset. She wasn't getting anywhere. She couldn't find my name, and now she couldn't find the doctor and his wife. So she thought, every time she got upset, she'd go and get her hair done. If it was every day, she'd go get her hair done. This was her thing. So she decided that she'd get to a beauty shop and get her hair done, and she'd go on to San Francisco. The beauty shop she chose, there was no space. But he said, on the outside of town, there's a shop that's called the Witch's Hut. And he takes walk-ins. So maybe you can get in there. So she drove out there, and she thought, before I go in, if the chairs are full, I'm just going on my way, because now she was upset. So she looks through the window, the beauty shop, and sitting in the chair is Sue. And it drew Sue's attention to see this form in the window. So she looks out from under the dryer, and there's Lynn. So she pushes the dryer up, she runs out, and they hug each other. And it was, you know, these miracles are just incredible. So Sue said, and you're staying the night? And she said, no, I'm not. I'm going on to San Francisco. She said, no, but you have to stay the night. We're going up to see Dr. Bronkey, and we want you to meet her. Dr. Bronkey? That's what Mataji told me. I have a message for her, so I'll stay. So she stayed. So up they come. Now the message, she says, that I'm to give you, now I want you to remember something, she said. And she said, and pointed her finger at me, I want you to remember something. I'm not involved in any of this stuff. Mataji has her own little, she calls it a puja room, I call it a prayer room, and has nothing to do with anything that I do. I don't pay attention to her. She goes in there and does her own thing. It's not my bag, and so just forget about it. But I'll give you the message. The message is that you're to go with her to India this fall. And she's going in October, and you're supposed to go with her, and that's the message. And I said, go to India? What is she talking about? She said, you are to go to India with Mataji. That's the message. Now, don't get me involved. I don't want any part of this. Remember, I told you that. It's not my bag. And I said, okay, but just please go back and tell her that I'm sorry, but I'm not going to India. I haven't lost anything in India. And I'm busy, and I don't have anybody here to watch my people, and I had a few excuses. I said, please tell her for me. She said, I'll do that. So they went through the class and they went home. Now she was going to stop in all these places, all the way down to Takati and take her full vacation. 2 days later from Takati, she called me. She was in Takati. What are you doing there? I thought you were stopping on the way down. And she said, I couldn't. I was driven. I had to come back. She said, I stopped and gassed the car. I got food to eat on the way, and I've driven straight down. I couldn't stop anywhere. I had to bring this message back. And I thought, isn't that something? Just to drive all that way all by yourself, and that was my thought, you know. It wasn't the speed that she went, it was the thinking, all driving all alone day and night and not stopping. So she said, anyway, Mataji said to tell you, you do have to go with her. You're going to India, and you need to send her $200. I said, well, thank you very much. I'm not going to India. So that was the end of that. A day later, I get a phone call from this sweet-voiced little lady, and she said, Dr. Bronkey. I said, yes. And she said, Doctor, now you must send me $200 because, darling, I'm holding your seat for you. And I cannot hold it because this gets expensive. I cannot hold everybody's seat for them. And she said, you must send me $200 because you have to put the money down to hold your seat on the plane. I said, I'm sorry, but I am not going to India. I don't know what I would be going for, and I've never met you, and I don't know what this is all about. But she said, well, darling, I'm very busy. I don't have time to talk. I have a class running. Hung up the phone. And I thought, oh, my goodness. You know, things are so strange anymore in this world. So I told Ivan when he came home, I said, you know, this woman is weird. Trying to get money out of me. I said, my gosh, this is a new one. Send $200 to go on a plane trip to India. I said, I don't know what it's all about, but I'm not going. And he said, well, takes all kinds, and we just left it at that, you know, just such a casual thing at that point. And a week later, I got another phone call. Darling, you must send me $200. Darling, I cannot keep holding the seat for you. And I said, I'm not going to India. I haven't lost anything in India. I still haven't lost anything there, that's for sure. But I am not going. And I'm sorry, but it's just not my thing. And I take care of a lot of people, and I don't have any money. I could not send you even $200 because the people we care for are very indigent people, and sometimes we have to work overtime just to help support them, and there's no way that I could send you $200. She said, darling, when Swami says come to India, Swami says come to India, and you will have to go. And I said, no, I don't have to go anywhere, Mataji. I really don't. And she said, darling, I'll be talking to you. And I said, I don't even know who you're talking about. I don't know why you're going to India. And I was getting hot under the collar because I thought if this goes on and on and on, you know, I've got to do something about this. And it wasn't to go to India. I was going to do something, you know, legal, like stop these phone calls or something like that. And so she said, if you have never heard of Satya Sai Baba? And I said, no, I certainly have not. And she said, well, darling, I'm going over to the American side of the border tomorrow night because we send all our mail out of the American side, the California Tecate. If I send it out of Mexico, you would never see it. You would never get it because the mail does not travel here very well. So I'm going over tonight to the postal office, and I will send you a brochure, and you'll get it in a few days. And after you get it, you'll know who's calling you. And I said, well, thank you very much. And so she hung up, and I hung up. The next morning, in my mailbox, at the foot of the hill, on a rural route, from Tecate, Mexico, or California, was a brochure in an envelope, postmarked the night before. And I began to sit up and take notice. I said, how can they do this? First I thought she had put it in the mail a week before that, see? And as I read it, but when I read it, I knew who he was. It was the strangest thing. My whole being, I knew who he was. I knew he was an avatar. I knew he had powers beyond anything I was teaching. And I thought, I never thought of going at that point, but I thought, this is just absolutely incredible. And then I looked at the postmark on the envelope, and it was the night before. And I knew that it had come through a different means of travel than our postal service, believe me. So when Ivan came home, I said, Ivan, what would you say if I decided to go to India? And he said, whatever turns you on. He said, if you can find the money to go and somebody to watch the kids. He said, I don't care if you go. So all of a sudden I began to feel like, I wonder if I am going. I wonder if I'm really going to go to India. No, I'm not going to India. That would take a lot of money, and I don't even know how much it would cost. I have no idea what the cost would be. Oh, that was in 1974. Yeah, 74 was when this all started. And it was in, let's see, it must have been August. It was still hot. It was around August, I think. And so I was thinking, what would I do if I went? Who would take care of the kids? So Ivan says, well, put an ad in the paper and see if you can find somebody. Well, when you have retarded, handicapped people, and you put an ad in the paper to get someone to care for them, nobody answers it. That's for sure. There's no answers. And this began a chain of trying to find somebody. And then the thought of the money to go. And at that point in time, I had a lot of faith in things that I could do, but it never dawned on me that if Baba said, this you will do, that there was always a way. I hadn't got to that point yet. You know, it was what I could do, what my mind could do, what my hands could do, was what controlled my life. There's a lot of changes since then, to say the least. But I started working on this situation. Nobody. And then the finance didn't come from anywhere. Now, we had one girl who was very handicapped. She was had a big, heavy fluid tumor on the brain. And when we got her, I had worked on her for a long time. We had drained the fluid tumor. All of these things was being done for her, but there was no money coming from the state. And the family, she drew her Social Security first from her father's estate. He had passed away. And then it was time, no, he hadn't passed away at that point, but she was drawing from his Social Security. And the Social Security had cut off her support because she had very thoroughly outdone the amount of money she was to get. So they were swinging her over to her mother's Social Security to draw from that. And because of that, there was a year that we got no pay for her whatsoever. We totally supported her. And her support was very expensive because she had to have metal braces up to her knees, and she had to have special shoes made, and she had a special wheelchair. In fact, we had 2 wheelchairs for her, one when we took her away to go places and another one for around the house here. So there was just so many things for her, so her costs were running very high. And we just didn't have any money in the bank. Everything was going to these clients that we had. So one day, all of a sudden, I thought, I have to go to Medford to the Social Security one more time. If I should have to go to India, I'd be leaving all of this hanging. And this money has to come into here for her because I couldn't possibly leave here, leaving all of this unattended. I've got to go to Medford. So it was in the late afternoon, and it was just a sporadic thing, you know, just jump and run and go. So I ran over to Medford and took all of her papers again because I'd done this so often and it had just not amounted to anything. I hadn't got anywhere at all. It was always a promise, we'll see what we can do. Nothing to being done. So I went over to the State Building first and I took the papers to them. Now the room at the State Building, go in a front door and it's a full desk and there's no breakthrough. They go behind the desk, they go into the main building, way down the hall, come back in through a lot of offices and into this front room. The only door into it from outside is the door, just the outside door, big plate glass door. And I took these papers in and I told her what I wanted. It was about 4:45 at that time. And she said, well, I'll check again and let's see what we have here and I'll stamp it and you take it over to the Social Security office. So she went into the back, and by now my mind is just absolutely continuous thought. How am I going to get money to go to India? And when Bob is pushing, he's pushing and he's pushing. And what will I do with the kids? Some of them were adults and some of them, but they were badly handicapped people. Wanda being one of them, Ronnie was another one. Ethel had epileptic seizures, just sometimes very vicious epileptic seizures. We had Loris that we still have now today, getting into things most of the time. We had 5 people to deal with, 2 wheelchairs, 2 sets of potty chairs, Ronnie with his big accordion. Who's going to deal with these people? So I'm standing there waiting for these papers to come back, and all of this is going through my mind, and I'm picturing these people, and I'm thinking, you know. And all of a sudden, somebody came back behind me and tapped me on the shoulder real hard 3 times and said, you will send them to your daughter in Portland. So I turned around to see, and there's nobody there. There was nobody there. And I began to get goose pimples, and I thought, man, I'm losing it. I'm really losing it because, you know, when you dwell on something, I've studied the mind long enough that when you dwell on something long enough, you can flip out. And I thought, I'm getting there. So I thought, this has got to stop. I'm just going to quit thinking about it. It's just got to stop. The lady came back with the papers, and she said, here you are. Take these over to Social Security. It's late. You may not even get in. But she said, if you hurry, you might. So it's a good mile from the State Building down to the Social Security office. So I got in the station wagon and dashed down there and pulled in there. Most of the cars were gone out of the parking lot, and the fellow was just locking the door. And I said, I brought some papers from the state. I need to leave them at the office here. And he said, are you here again? And I said, it's me again. And he said, okay. He said, there's only one lady back there, but she'll take the papers from you. And I said, okay. So I went in and he locked the door. Inside of the office, there is a little glass room where some of the higher financial things go on, I would say. And there was one man sitting back in there, and you could see him all the time. He sat there. The rest of the office with all of the desks was empty. Just one lady was there, and she was sitting out kind of in the middle. There was another row of desks on this side. And I said to her, one of these days I'm going to get a desk, and I want my desk over by the window. I'm here so often. And she laughed, and she said, what can I do for you? And I said, here's the papers. I said, I need to have Wanda's money. I just need to have it. And she said, I don't know what to do about it, but what I'll do is I'll wire Seattle and see what we should do. So she said, you wait here, we'll send another wire. And see, they didn't have fax then, and they didn't have the computers at that time that we have now. They just didn't have any of those things. So she went clear in the back somewhere down another hall, and I'm sitting there all by myself, and I'm thinking, this is the craziest thing. If I were to go to India, I wouldn't have any money because they're not going to give me the money from here. And not only that, if I got the money, I'd have to leave it all behind to take care of the people, because nobody's going to take care of these people for less than $10 a shift, that's for sure. And all of a sudden, somebody tapped me on the back again, real hard, 3 times. I told you you would take them to your daughter in Portland. And it was the sweetest voice, and my skin crawled from my heels right up the back of my neck. And I thought, I am going to take them to Helen. I don't know what she's going to do with them, but I am. I'm going to take them to Helen. What a strange thing to do. Now Helen and Russell who's running around here, they had 2 little children. One which was about, I guess Ivy was about 4 years old and into everything. And John was the baby. And they had the crib in their bedroom, and their bedroom wasn't any, well, it was just big enough for the double bed and the crib, and they crawled over the foot of the bed to get into the bed. That bedroom was that small with the crib in it. And the living room and kitchenette was one room, was about as long as from this wall to there. That included the kitchenette and the living room and the eating space and everything, and a little back porch. And off to this side, there's one of these, they have these very cheap dividers that go through an apartment. You know, you could knock them down with your fist. And it jutted out into the hall in such a way that to get to the bathroom, we could walk through there. That wasn't a problem, but we had wheelchairs. And the wheelchair would not bypass this jutting wall to get into the bathroom. And you couldn't maneuver it. There would be no way that you could maneuver that wheelchair into the bathroom. On this side was the other little room in which she had Ivy's little bed and that another small bedroom. What is she going to do with 5 people, 2 wheelchairs? But all the way home I was so happy thinking of this, knowing that, yes, I'm going to do it. Wonder what she's going to say about this, you know? And I came home and I was just so buoyant. Well, that's later. And so anyway, I get there, get home, and I thought, I've got to call her because this is going to bug me. Oh, boy. So I get on the telephone and I dialed her and she answered, and I said, Helen, I've got a favor to ask of you. She said, I know what it is, Mom. You want me to take care of the kids while you go to India. How did you know that? She said, I've known it all day. Mom, I've known it all day. We're all set up because you don't have much time. Do you know that? She said, what I did was I got a set of bunk beds from my sister, and we put them in Ivy's room, and we've got the cot in there, and we put Ivy back into our bedroom, and we'll put the baby into our bed with us. And you can put Wanda in the living room in her wheelchair, bring the one that breaks down into the potty and makes into a bed. She can sleep on that, and Ethel can sleep on the couch. No, she wasn't putting Ethel on the couch. Who did she put on the couch? Somebody else, anyway, went on the couch. And we'll put Loris in the bottom bunk, and we'll put Ronnie in the top bunk, because he can climb up to the top bunk. That won't bother him. And we'll put Ethel on the cot, so if she has seizures, she won't bother anybody else. And we've got it all set. I said, honey, you can't get the wheelchairs into the bathroom. She says, I know that, but we're just going to put a potty chair out there on the back porch. And she said, we'll bring it in the morning before everybody gets up, and we'll let her use it. And then when Russell goes to work, after he goes to work, we'll bring it back in the kitchen, and she can use it, and we'll just dump it and put it back on the back porch. It's all taken care of. And Ella's going to help me. And we'll take them to the park sometimes, and we've got all the lawn out here for them and everything, and we'll just get along fine. All you need to do is just bring the bedding, bring some food, because we just don't have food enough for them, and just bring 2 changes of clothing for each person, because I'll wash every day. And what I can't wash here, Ella will wash. And we got it all set, Mom, so you can bring them up any time. My goodness. But I don't have any money. Well, I know what you were talking about. Now, back to the Social Security office, the lady in the back came back to the desk, and she said, Seattle has given me the authority to write you a check for $1,000. And she said, if you should get another check from them, all you have to do is sign it and bring it back to us. And so I want you to sign this paper that you've received this check. I'm giving you this check for $1,000. You've waited so long. So she did give me that $1,000 right there. So now I had $1,000. I had someone going to watch the kids. And I still needed money. There's just no way. I had wired the $200, by the way, way back when, that I wasn't going to wire, you know. So now I have $1,000. But I have to buy a ticket. I called Lynn Polton. I said, how much would the ticket be to go to India? And she said, well, the base price is $900, and then you have the add-ons of the different stopovers and things like that. But she said, you know something? She said, if you want to go, and you're planning to go, and you've never been there, and I've been in India many a times. I've not been where you're going. But she said, I've been to Goa with my husband and all. She said, I'll meet you in New York. I'll meet the flight in New York, and I'll fly the rest of the way with you, and I'll go with you. And I said, well, that would be nice. Do you know Bobbitt? No. She says, no, I'll just go with you, because I know you've not been there, so I'll go with you, and I've got time on my hands. So, okay, now, all these things that are transpiring to change our lives and fit our lives in together and to weave them like a woven rug was just incredible. Well, anyway, I came home with $1,000 and got that into the bank so I could send her the money for the ticket, which I did. But now I don't have any money to travel on. I don't have money to leave with the kids. I don't have anything else. I have a $1,000 ticket and nothing else. So I was to do a lecture in Portland on handicapped children, and there were films running on what they were doing in Sweden. So I thought, I'll go ahead and do that lecture. And Ivan said, but you're trying to save money to go to India. Why are you spending money to go to Portland? And I said, I don't know, but I just, you know, I have got to do this. I gave my word. I cannot go back on it. I have to do that. So I took Lana that was working for me here, and Grace came up to watch the kids again. And Alana and I went to Portland to do this lecture. We stayed overnight with a friend by the name of Shirley and helped with the dishes. And when we did the dishes that night, I took off my big ring that I wore, a smoky topaz dinner ring, took that off, and I took off the little birthday ring that my foster kids had got for me, and that was an imitation sapphire, and the stone was all scratched, and, you know, glass scratches very easily, especially for me when my hands are always busy. And I put them on the inside of my purse, in my coin purse, those little coin purses that zip inside your purse. And I carry a big purse, I still do. It has the outside pockets and the inside pockets and all, and I put my rings in there so I wouldn't lose them. Forgot about them. Now the next morning we went down to the hotel, to the Sheraton Hotel, which has this big lecture hall, and it has 4 little lights, one this corner, one that corner, one over there, and these little ball dome things, you know. And it's fairly dark in there. We went in and sat down, and there was a film running from Sweden. And to follow that film, I was to speak. And so I was looking at the film and I was thinking, where am I going to get the money to go to India? This is ridiculous. I shouldn't have sent that ticket money. I'm not going to India. I don't have any means of getting any more money. There's just no way I can do this. Why did I do that? And how am I going to India? And you know how the mind works? I don't know if you all know how the mind works, but I know how mine works. There's about 10 thoughts running all on tracks, all at the same time. And they all interweave and straighten out and interweave again. And my mind was doing that. And I'm sitting there thinking about the lecture I'm to give. I couldn't get my mind on it. And I thought of my starting statement, and I lost it again, and I started again, and I thought of India again, and I'm not going to India. I'd love to go, but there's no way I can go to India. And then I thought, now why doesn't he send me a sign? Put my mind at rest. In that brochure that I got, Baba said he gave signs to people. And he hasn't sent me any sign. Why don't you send me a sign if I'm supposed to go to India? So I'm sitting there thinking this and looking at the film, and pretty soon it's time for me to speak, and the film's running and running, and my mind is running, and oh, it's awful. And all of a sudden, a lady sitting down in front of me, about back where Dave is sitting, she moved her hand, and in that little light, that little flash of light from that little dome, her diamonds sparkled. My rings, where's my rings? So I thought, what did I do with, oh, I put them in my coin purse. So I reached down in my purse, trying to be quiet, and I reached down, opened my coin purse, and put on my big smoky topaz, reached down for the little ring, and it wasn't there. What did I do with that ring? Oh, I put it in there. I put it in there. I know I put it in there. I reached again, no, it wasn't there. There was just coins in there, but there was no little ring. I thought, oh, the kids will be devastated, because always if I left that ring off and they noticed it, Mama, what did you do with our ring? We worked hard to get that ring. I hope you didn't lose that ring. You know how kids can be. But I didn't have the ring. I must have left it at Shirley's. Somehow I must have put it on a windowsill or something, because I don't have it. Now I have a ring to worry about. Then I have the trip to worry about. All these wonderful things, and all of a sudden, and I'm looking up this way at that point, down in my purse, all these sparks began to shoot out of my purse. You know the sparks like in a sparkler on the 4th of July, or welding sparks from a welding torch? And the sound as well as the sparks. What in the world was that? And I didn't see it again, and I did see that. Did I? Or didn't I? Man, this is awful. I am losing it. When you see welding sparks shooting out of your purse on the floor, you've got to stop this, Wilma. You've just got to stop it. That's all. Stop it. Now you're going to speak. Sit up here. Take notice. All of a sudden, man, what is that? So I reached down in my purse and reached along this outside pocket, and right on the top is this ring. And I thought, I didn't put that outside of my purse, and what is this? And it was so hot when I picked it up. It was just so hot. And as I picked it up and looked at it, and it was still firing sparks. And just as I held it up like this, it wasn't on my finger, I held it up to look at it again, and this breeze crossed the top of my hair, just picked up the little hairs on the top of my head, and it said, the sweetest voice I ever heard, you ask for a sign. And I just come unglued, absolutely come unglued. And I took the ring and I said, Alana, come on, let's go. Shirley, let's go. What, but you're going to speak? Come on, let's go. Out, out, out. So I grabbed my purse and out we went, and I said, look at my ring. Look at my ring. She said, wow, what is that? I said, I don't know. But I told her about the voice I heard and the fact that I asked for a sign, and it was the sign. And the ring was still sparkling and dancing, and oh, it was so beautiful. I said, let's go home. Aren't you going to speak? No, I am not. I'm going home. I'm going to India. I don't know how. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going. I know I'm going. And so we get into the car, and I said, I wonder what kind of a stone that is. Nobody, of course, knew, because mine had been a dark blue, very badly scratched sapphire, imitation sapphire. So now it's not a dark blue anymore. So I said, well, let's go down to Hart's Jewelers and see what kind of a stone this is. So what am I going to tell him? You know, you're wearing a ring. Definitely the band is mine. What am I going to tell him when I ask him what kind of a stone is in my ring? That sounds rather foolish. I know. I'll tell him that I want to insure this because I'm going on a trip. And what is the value of it? Is it worth insuring? You know, or should I not insure this ring? Oh boy, I've got the thing. Okay, so we go to Hart Jewelers. And we go in, and I told him this is what I wanted. I wanted to insure this ring because I was going on a tour, and it was an old family heirloom, and I didn't know the value of it, and how much should I insure it for? So he looked at it, and he said, oh, that's a very, very beautiful aquamarine. Wasn't an aquamarine, it was blue. So I leaned over to look at it, and it was an aquamarine. It had a green-blue cast to it, totally different than what it had been. And he said, it's a different cut. It's not a cut like we cut them anymore, but I definitely would say at least $2,000. Oh, well, thank you very much. I'll do that. $2,000. Okay, so we left, and I thought, oh, that can't be. We'll go down to Burnett Brothers. This is where Ivan got his watches and things when he was driving bus. We'll go down there, and we'll talk to Roy and see what he thinks this is. So we take it down to Roy Burnett. And I tell him the same story, and I said, Roy, how much do you think I should insure this ring for? It was my grandmother's, and I want to insure it, and I don't know what to insure it for. And he said, well, Wilma, he said, that is certainly a beautiful sapphire. It is? It was dark, dark blue, so dark you could hardly see through it. And I said, are you sure that's a sapphire? And he said, yes, but the cut is different. We don't cut them like that anymore. But he said, that's probably because it's an old ring. But he said, I would insure it for at least $1,500 or more. I wouldn't go for any less than that, that's for sure. Okay, thank you. I'll do that. We get outside, and I said, that was a dark blue. I saw it myself. Alana said, so did I. Shirley said, so did I. But it wasn't that at the other jewelers. It wasn't that when we were over at the hotel. No, it wasn't. Now it's back to this nice light blue that it is. Well, so we go home. I drop Shirley off at her home and bring Alana home, and Sue and Jack came up from Crescent City, and I told them the story, and Jack said, well, maybe they don't know jewelry. Let's go over to my jeweler in Medford, because we get some beautiful diamonds and things from him, and he has the best quality. So come on, you guys, get in the car, and let's go over there and see what you got. Okay? We get in the car, and we go over to Jack's jeweler. And he said, I got a ring here. I want to know what the value of this stone is. She wants to insure it because she's going to go someplace on a trip. And he said, I told her I thought it was worth one thing, but he said, maybe you better take a look at this and see what this is worth. He said, I don't even know what kind of a stone it is. He said, do you? So he hands it to his jeweler. And the jeweler said, that is a very beautiful blue-white diamond. I don't know, but what I would insure it for, maybe $2,000, maybe $2,200 at least. The cut's different. It's an old cut, but that doesn't make any difference in the value. A diamond is a diamond. I said, Jack, give me the ring. I'm sure that Baba has insured it. And I don't care what the stone is. Oh, okay. So I don't care what the stone is. It's just a Baba ring. And it's insured by Baba. And so when I got over to India, and I did go, the money came. In fact, it was Jack and Sue that loaned me the money and told me that I needed to pay it back whenever I wanted, and there was no interest attached. And so they gave me the checks to go. And we deposited all the kids up in Portland, 2 big carloads of people and kids and things, and that all worked out. And so when we got to India, the second time that we sat in front of Baba, and this time he came over to me and he looked down and he said, "And how did you like your ring?" It's the story of how I went to Baba. So.